Hello there, my name is Ismail. Welcome to another Blender tutorial. So today I want to explain some of how I made some of these elements here, because I don't think I've explained in any tutorial how I made this thing here or other objects that you see here. But for some of these objects like the shoes, yeah, I think specifically the shoe, I have made a tutorial on that, and so you can go and watch that if you want to. But I'm going to touch on some of the few things here, and even the materials and the lighting, how I set that up, because I used this how is it, irradiance light something, irradiance reflection cube, and yeah, the whatever this is, reflection cube and irradiance volume. So to get that kind of lighting that you see there, and I also want to show you how to make this a translucent material, because if you try to add it directly, just go here to layout and add an object here, then go to shading. Let me make sure this is recording. I'll put it on my other screen. So because if you tried to add a material here, a shader, you can see that you won't find the translucent shader there, because I don't know, maybe they're still working on it, but it's not included in 2.8. It's not there, you can't find it in the list here, but I'm going to show you a trick to access it, because you see in Blender 2.7, wait for it to load. So in Blender 2.7, I'm even forgetting how to use this. What shading? Node editor. Use materials. So in Blender 2.8, cycles. Let me first remove this material. New. You just shift a shader and you see that you have the translucent shader there. I don't know, maybe it's only available in cycles, so let's try and change this to cycles. Shift a shader. Yeah, I think it's only available in cycles, but I want to show you how you can bring it back in Blender Eevee, because you can see if we select this, you can see the translucent shader is here, but if we try to add it directly here, you won't find it in the list. So I want to show you how I managed to bring it back in Blender 2.8. But first, if you want to look at any of the renders I made here, you can just go to my YouTube channel, and you can either go to this link here, ArtStation, or go to the CG Trader CG Trader link, and you will find all the renders that I have made. So you can see, if you want to look at this project, you just click on that and you'll see all the images that I managed to render from that. You can see how this looks from different angles, and yeah, I even add the mesh view. So all the projects we have worked on, you can see I've added them there. Maybe not all of them on ArtStation, but if you want to look at all the renders, because you will find them here on CG Trader, because every model that I make, I try to put it up for sale on CG Trader, and you can find all of them here. And if you want to buy them, you can also just get them like that. Or you can go to my Patreon account, and you can sign up to become a Patreon and pay only $5 per month to access all my 3D models. But if you want to buy individual models, you just buy them at the price that they at. But as a Patreon, you just have access to all the models there directly. So thank you. Anyway, let's go back to this, and yes, so let's begin by, let me see, let's start by making this thing here. So I will just go to layout mode, or maybe let me just create a new project here. So the first thing you do is create the shape you want. So I'll just add a circle. I will reduce the number of vertices. We don't need all 32, so I'll divide this by 2 to get 16, and see, that's what we have. Can scale this down a bit and get the shape we want. So let's do something different here. So let's a different design. So I'll rotate this 90 degrees like that, and then add a few loops like that. No, that's a lot of loops. So let's reduce this to about 8. Extrude up. I don't want to create the exact thing. I just want to design another shape that I can use in the project. So then add maybe 2 cuts like that. So this is the shape we have, and because you see in this scene here, I have one that is just there, lying there, and I have one that is around this other object. So that is also the same shape. So we can duplicate this. Let me first flip the normals. Shift N to flip the normals. We can duplicate this. So we have 2 objects. I will move this to the side, and then maybe turn on random colors and cavity. So to give this the mesh that we see, just go under the modifiers and add a skin modifier. This will add those kind of it will give volume or thickness to every edge on your object, but it first gives it a really big thickness, so you need to reduce that by going to edit mode and then selecting everything, and then Ctrl A, then scale down. So unfortunately you can't preview what you're scaling down, so you have to go back to out of edit mode and then to see how large the lines are, and then either scale them down further or scale them up to make them bigger, but I want them to be a bit smaller like that. You can, let's just leave it like that. So you can bring this here on top of this, and you see we have that. But if you see here, you see the pattern here is quite different from what we have here. So to achieve that kind of pattern, what you need to do is add, let's first turn off this, add a subdivision surface. We'll first hide this subdivision surface, and maybe let's put it at level 2. Now on top of that, we can add the skinning modifier. Let's reduce the size again. Again, can also add this. So this skinning modifier can also take up the shape of the subdivision, but I think the subdivision is also giving the same pattern there. So let's examine how this pattern came about. So if we turn off the skin modifier, you can see the shape here is this kind of, I don't know what shape is this, pentagon, hexagon, I don't know. So that's why this subsurf is giving that pattern. So if we can turn on wireframe for this overlays wireframe, let's increase this. You can see the pattern. The pattern goes like that. So when we turn on the skin modifier, it will just follow that pattern. Because this in this here, our pattern is just going exactly, it's just flowing horizontally and then like that. we don't get that unique pattern. So if you want to add that, maybe you can just join this like this and this like this, so that you disrupt that the pattern we had there. You can see now if we add the mesh, we get a disrupted pattern. Yeah, so that's how you do this this here. And now you just bring in the other mesh. We scale it in and extrude up. To get something like that. Then we just add a smooth shading to have something like that. So you can find different ways to make a cool pattern. So yeah, let's see what other objects. If I turn off these wireframes, they're slowing down. This is very simple. What I did is, because I had the reference image, let me see if I still have it. I don't think I do. But you just use the spin modifier. So you add maybe a plane like this. Delete all the vertices but one. Then extrude out the shape you want to make. Like the profile of the shape you want to make. Just a single line like that. And then go to edit mode, use the spin tool. Click on that and then spin around. So I don't know, there is a bug right now that when you release the spin tool, it will just snap everything back to that position. So what you can do is just come here, edit the angle to 360 and make the changes that you want, and then you can go out of edit mode and your edits will be confirmed. So we also I think we still have doubles here, or they have been removed, I don't know. Yeah, if you still have doubles, you can just hit W on your keyboard and then remove those doubles and see, okay, we didn't have any. But that's how you make a shape like that. You just need to make it more defined than mine that I've given in the example. And if your normals are flipped, you just select everything, Shift N, and then flip the normals, then W, smooth shading. So what else do we see here that is complicated? So for this shape here, this base, how I made that is, yeah, I think you can just also go to the tutorial and see how I did that. But I just wanted to explain how I made these more complicated objects. I think for this I already have a tutorial on that. I'm making this plant. So you just have to go and look at that tutorial. So let's go back to the materials. Okay, I need to turn this cane modifier back on. Let's go to the materials. Let's first touch on this lamp here. So the way I did that is just got a sphere, not a sphere, but a circle. Created the shape I wanted. And for the material, I just begin with any material you want. So the principal material. So to bring up the translucent material, I found that if you go to the material settings, to the material tab, then in the surface, you will see the material node that is used here. So when you try adding the translucent shader here directly from here, you won't be able to find it here. But under here, under the surface, you will find all the materials listed there, and you can see the translucent material is also there. So from here, you can change any node that you have here to any node that you want. So you can change it to volume scatter, you can change it to glass, you can change it to any node that is listed here. And because translucent is also listed here, you can also change it to that, even though, okay, it's crashing, but it's not crashing because we have used the translucent shader. It's just crashing because Blender 2.8 crashes a lot. So let's close that and reopen that. So another thing that I may want to mention is that if you find that when you're working in the shading, or if you're adding materials and Blender crashes a lot, just go out of material mode and go maybe to layout, and make sure you are not in rendered mode or material mode. Just go into this workbench preview, and then apply the materials directly there. So maybe we can go to the shading first and add the material. So we know that Blender crashes when we change the material here, so we can just go back to workbench. Let me make sure that I'm not in flat mode. Random materials. So if you find that Blender crashes, make sure that you are not in the material or rendered mode, and now you can change the shader, so translucent, and Blender won't crash there. So now we can go to shading, and let's add a light. I think it's not supported yet in Blender 2.8 because it's still worked on, so you will find it to be buggy. Like you see now, it's giving you only this black shading. So okay, let's add a light inside. And we can reduce the energy, maybe to 0.3. But this translucent shader, I found that works best if you mix it with a different shader. So say like diffuse shader, and I use the add shader to mix the two. And you can turn down this translucent a bit, like that. And to give this more detail, as you see here, what I did is I used the mix shader. I used the mix shader and mixed these colors, brown and lighter brown, with a texture, this texture here. So if we preview this, you can see I use this texture to mix these colors here, so that I have some detail there. So let's do that here. So you just add a color mix shader, mix RGB. So instead of using the mix, instead of just plugging this directly into the color, yeah, actually that's what you should do. Just plug this directly into the color, and then you can choose the colors you want. So I'll just go with these, and then you can even see that it has also started adding some color between inside here. So you can just then use a image texture, or just drag any texture you have here. Let's try using this. Also make sure to UV unwrap the object. So I'll just use a cylinder projection. Let's look at the UVs. Too small, so we can scale them out like that. Go back to shading. Now if you preview this texture, you can see Blender stops working, but basically you got the point. You just use that as a mask to mask the different colors you want to use, and to add more detail to that object. So from there, let's look at this lighting setup, how to use this irradiance volume. Let's go to a new project here. We'll add, to make this, I'll add a cube, and then I would delete this front face, and let's add a Suzanne inside here. And this add also two spheres here and there. Maybe bring this. So these are going to be our source of light, and let's also add another area light like this. So if you go to shading, let's go to shading here. You can see what we have. All the light is coming from this area light. If we turn that off, so area light, if we turn that off, okay, we're getting some light from this lamp. So this is what we are looking at. And we can add another, we can make these light sources by giving them an emission shader. Emission, delete this, give this maybe a blue. Let's turn the energy to 3. Shader, emission. You can see they are not really affecting anything. They're not producing any light in the scene. That's because we need to use to bake these lights using the irradiance light something. So to bake the indirect lighting. So to do that, go to the render settings and then go to indirect lighting and then bake indirect lighting. So if you click on that, it will not bake because we need to add that irradiance volume map something. So let's go to layout again and go back to this. You need to add that light irradiance volume, scale it to fit the size of your mesh, of your scene, like that. Make sure everything is within those dots, and let's go back to shading, rendered, and now we can bake indirect lighting, and you can see you get this bake lighting, and we'll get that. You can see we even have the lighting starting to work like that. But I think we need to increase the light by quite a lot. So let's bake again, and you see we have the light. We have our light. Let's also give this a material, maybe make it a bit darker so that we can see the light more visibly. So bake light again. So it will also, the reason we were the scene was getting lit up quite a lot is because that this does not only bake the lights, it also bakes the bouncing light. You can see this light is bouncing off here and then bouncing off this area here and then reflecting on this area. So if this was white, fully white, the light that is bouncing off this is also bouncing off, it's becoming white and then bouncing off the entire scene to make everything look so burnt out like this. So we need to give this a much dark color so that it doesn't reflect a lot of light. So let's bake again. So we can also bring back our area light, bake that again. Let's see. Bake again. Yes. So if you remove all that light, let's bake again. see what we have. So you can see without baking that light, this is how the lighting would look like. And if we bake the indirect lighting, this is how that would look like. So let's also look at the reflection cube map here. So if we don't have that, and maybe make this, let's just add a plane here, shift D, let's use this as a mirror. Separate this, and so we can turn this into a metal and give it full reflection. Let's go to materials, make sure it's the only material that is assigned, so metallic, no roughness. You see the kind of reflections we're getting. Maybe let's use a sphere. UV sphere, bring this here. I'll give it a smooth shading. Use the same material. You see the kind of reflections we're getting? The monkey is not even getting reflected. Just need to position these directly so that you see, though this is supposed to be a reflective surface, it's not reflecting that much. You can see if we go to this material tab, we are seeing the reflection of the environment map, but we're not seeing any reflections from the objects within the scene. So to fix that, we use the reflection cube map. Make sure that it fits the scene you want to reflect. And now we can go back to the baking, free everything, and then bake the lighting and everything. And now you can see that now the reflections are also, the objects are also reflecting our scenes. So you can see the Suzanne there. It is not perfect reflections, and whenever you move this, it doesn't really bake that, reflect that for some reason. Yeah. So what it does, it creates a reflection map for the entire scene, and that reflection map is used for all the objects in your scene, as you can see. So without that reflection cube map, so if we free everything, this is the kind of reflections we get. And if we go to the material settings, you see what we get. So when you bake everything, this is what we get. If you want this to appear back in this material mode, you just need to turn off the lighting. I guess it doesn't. You have to preview it within the rendered mode, like that. So that's how I managed to get this the reflections you see there, and the lighting there. So if I turned off that indirect lighting, so free everything, I guess it doesn't really change a lot, because I have because I have an HDR image, and this is an outdoor scene, so they're getting bounce lighting from the HDRI image from all direction. But if this was inside, then that baking will really make would really make a difference. So let's see if I extruded these. So this is how it would look without the baking. Now if we bake, we can see. Sometimes I think it works for different scenes, different setups, but yeah, because I don't really see that much difference here for this scene. Yeah, it will, depending on the scene setup you have, you can see the difference between not having this on and having it on. Anyway, thank you for watching. Again, if you want to download the scene, just go to my YouTube page and you will find all the links directly there. Yeah, thank you.